I didn't say it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tech Talks. I'm Victor here with Julie, and we are back. There was technically a hiatus. We did record a podcast last week, but I lost it.
Well,
and I ended up having to factory reset the computer, and but now we have a new computer reinstall of Windows. Hopefully that will actually help with the recordings too, because those have been dropping frames, so maybe that might help a little bit with that. And we're here for another week of Tech Talks. So how's anything interesting new with you?
well, I mean, we got a Google Nest Hub. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think now it is the Google Nest Hub. It used to be the Google Home Hub, but ever since they have acquired Nest, they're incorporating it into the Nest family.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I guess along the same lines here, worth mentioning, there was a certain brand of camera. I think the name of it started with X. It was like a third-party camera that was partnered with or able to link to Google Home, but those cameras had some kind of security error where they were showing pictures from inside other people's homes, showing not footage from the right camera. Oh, Google, I didn't. So, that is a side note, but I believe since that happened a few weeks ago, Google has already stopped servicing those cameras and said we will no longer work with them while this is the thing that is happening.
Yeah, there's been I think Ring has had something like that. Not as dubious. There was another camera company also. There's been a few of these assistant linked or like home network cameras that have been running into this kind of issue, which I think it's a portion of like the first iteration of these things.
It should get better over time.
Yeah, they'll get better and more secure over time.
But we did get one, and it is nice to have a display screen. We have ours in the kitchen.
She's talking about the Home Hub.
Yes,
not
we have
the camera.
Yes, not the camera. We have the Home Hub, which is we have the 7-inch, I believe, display.
Yeah, the small one.
Right by our kitchen sink, which is really convenient to have something on while I'm doing dishes and or making breakfast in the morning. And some convenient features that I do like about it. I really love how easily it links to Google Photos. It's seamless. I use my Google Gmail and Google Photos for my photos anyways. So then having the Google Nest Hub is, it's kind of a very easy choice. And I can select which albums, or I can select by the face recognition and select, like, for example, I have all my nieces and nephews' faces selected and like my family members' faces selected. So any pictures in my Google Photos library that have those faces, they now show up in a sort of screensaver format on the hub. And it's a nice length of time that the pictures stay up. I'm not actually sure whether it's like 1 minute, 3 minutes, somewhere in that range, I'd guess. But there's also nice that you can just swipe to the next picture, or you can swipe back to the previous picture really easily. In the lower right corner, it does also tell you like which album, or because it's their face, so-and-so's face. And I like all of those features. I like that the volume's easy to control. It's on like a 10-point basis, but I think there might be a half point for each of those. And it gets loud enough that I can hear it over the sink, which was previously a problem. When I was previously just using my phone set on a shelf near the kitchen sink, I oftentimes could not hear the YouTuber, the music over the sound of the faucet running. But I don't have that problem with the Home Hub, and so that has been a significant improvement for entertainment while dishes washing. I've also noticed that when I go into the kitchen at night, when the lights are off, instead of the screensaver, it's in a power saving mode where the screen is pretty well blacked. It might actually be a gray. It's the screen is dark and there's like a very faint showing of the time in digital format, which is nice.
Yeah, it's very much like when your phone screen is off. If you have the pixels, when your phone screen is off, then it shows the time, just the time. A lot of phones are doing that now, but like especially phones with OLED screens.
The
These aren't. This isn't an OLED screen though. It's just a LCD, but it's just doing the same effect.
as far as apps and the content where you can get it from to what I watch or listen to while I'm using the Home Hub, it connects pretty easily with YouTube, but honestly, it's easier to pick something on my phone and then cast it to the Home Hub in the kitchen, because the interface for YouTube on the Home Hub is not very user friendly, and I find that I have a lot of problems with the voice controls. Oftentimes it's telling me it can't do a thing when I'm pretty sure it should be able to. I must just not know or use the right words, maybe. And I'm not sure that it even has a keyboard. I haven't had a digital keyboard show up on the screen yet, so like you can't type in to search on YouTube on the Home Hub. I have not successfully been able to do that yet, and we've had it for probably 2 weeks now.
Yeah, I don't think it's designed for that kind of usage.
Well,
I think it's more designed.
that's what I wanted.
It's designed to just have things cast to it. Like
Yeah.
it does have like a YouTube where you can just ask Google to bring up a video if you're looking for something for specific.
And it doesn't
But
have
it's
a
not
Netflix
like
app.
Yeah, but it's
access.
not like a browser where if you're just kind of looking for things. It can.
You can ask it though, like you can ask the assistant things.
Yeah, and that's how it's designed to use, because it's supposed to be that speaker, the Google Nest Mini that we have. It's supposed to be that, but just with a screen. So you're supposed to be using it just like you would use that thing, except it can give you a visual
It
layout.
seems like if you're having a screen, like there's just like a little bit more that I wish it could do that doesn't, from my perspective, seem that hard. I'm guessing the hardware or software potentially is just not quite there.
Yeah, it's mostly software. Like the hardware is there if you want. I'm sure if somebody was smart enough, they could program whatever it to be whatever they wanted. If they wanted to turn that thing into a tablet, they could.
Connected to a Raspberry Pi.
But the way Google has designed it is the idea is that it's supposed to be a speaker that just has a visual for you that you could. So if you ask Google something, it can give you not just the audio but a visual feedback.
And if you're using it for the picture frame, so we ended up sending one to my mom too by accident. I put in Google's autofill on the address, ended up, getting them an extra one because I just sent something to my mom and then it autofilled my mom's address when I was trying to order ours because it was on sale. It worked out. It's great. If you're using it for the picture frame function, which, like my mom, that is the primary thing, and I'm really enjoying the picture frame function since it so seamlessly connects with my Google Photos, and I don't even have to, like, per se go through and select which photos and make it this curated thing, which you could, but I really appreciate how easy it is. Just anytime I add pictures of my nieces and nephews to my Google Photos, they're automatically showing up on my picture frame thing now in the kitchen. I like it.
The digital picture frame definitely seems to be like, because we actually just got your mom a picture
a different
frame
one. Yeah, that was cloud based.
Yeah, like a third-party cloud-based picture frame system,
which is bigger and nice,
but it was a lot more complicated.
She can't hook her Google Photos to it very easily. She still hasn't figured it out.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily do, and it was like way more expensive for what you're trying to just do with it. So the digital picture frame does seem like, or was definitely
A nice
a
feature
very
of
good
it,
feature, yeah, a well built feature. My downsides for it is very much that the casting, for some reason, it doesn't act like a Chromecast if you're trying to cast to it. It in some instances it does, in some instances it doesn't. It when you cast to it, you do just like a Chromecast. Like if you're on YouTube, you just hit the cast button and then it picks like whether you want it on your TV or you want it on the home hub. And so it's very simple. But for some reason, only certain apps are set up to recognize the home hub. So Netflix does not recognize it. Disney Plus, I believe, does recognize it. Hulu does not, or no, Dish TV does not. The Dish app, right? Is that what you were trying to use before? With Big Bang
I don't
Theory?
remember. Yeah, that is actually, you're
Okay.
right.
So the Dish app does not connect to it. YouTube does. It's very weird. I don't think we've tried Hulu yet to see if that. Oh yeah, Hulu does, because that actually has a built-in app for it too. So some things have built-in apps that you can use, but I just find it easier to cast to it. But only certain sites or certain web apps cast to it directly, which is very weird. And casting your screen to it does not work that well. It just like when you try to cast a video,
You have to leave your phone screen on anyways. You can't like
yeah, you have to leave your
put it to
phone
sleep
screen
mode.
on, which is the thing with casting the full screen. But when you try to do that, it just makes the home spaz out. It doesn't actually like cast the screen.
It doesn't. I think it was having problems with like the rotating the screen, and so it was like half of the. It was weird, and at any rate, overall, I think it's working. There, back to the picture frame thing though for a minute.
Yeah.
I had two more things on that I've forgotten now. Oh, hold on. One of them that I thought was weird. There was a thing that popped up. What was it again? Oh, for some reason. So at one point I was swiping through pictures, just like standing there looking at pictures. Like I haven't seen a lot of these pictures in a long time because of the tens of thousands of pictures in my Google Photos. And I don't often just, scroll a long ways and then stop and look at a few. So, it was nice, but I wish there was a consistent way that it would bring up such a thing that after I was like looking through for a few minutes, one of the pictures, it had a thing that popped up and said, see other pictures from this day. And I have not been able to get that to show up on any other pictures. I have no idea why it showed up all of a sudden on that one. Like that would have been cool to have that be something that you could more readily access. I don't know. I guess that it's just a comment on it. Maybe eventually that'll be the kind of thing that we'll have a little more control over. And then the other thing was, if there's like photos that show up like trash photos, like it's blurry or whatever, for whatever reason you don't want the picture to show up on your digital picture frame, it seems like they have it pretty easy to take it down. But we had the problem that one of the pictures showed up and I tried to delete it and it told me the picture didn't belong to me, so I could not delete it. So then we had Victor try to delete it and it kept telling Victor the picture didn't belong to Victor, that he could not delete it. And it was kind of a hard process, so we had to look at what album it was in and then search through the album and tell it to remove that picture from the picture frame. And like that's the way you have to do it, I guess. Or maybe it was just a glitch that one time. Like it just kept telling us that neither of us owned the picture, so we did not have the right to remove it from our picture frame, which was weird.
Yeah, there seemed to be some sort of permissions issue, and because we found that it was an auto-generated album, and so it might have been that we just accepted, right? Do you want to generate this album?
Yeah,
saved it that way.
That's what it was. It was like
so there might have been like a permissions thing that was not
That might have been
set.
what it was related to. It is, in some ways, I like that Google does those auto-create albums. Like, if you go and take 100 pictures in a given afternoon over the span of 2 hours, it'll create an album a lot of times of those pictures. But it includes the trash pictures, too, that you don't necessarily want
Yeah.
included. And so it is what it is.
Yeah. It tries to figure it out, but it's
Yeah.
not machine learning still.
Overall, it's an improvement. I like it. I'm glad we got it.
So this is an interesting article. Switching off from the Google Home, there's actually two other Google things.
Oh.
One of them was Google Fi. It
Yes.
sounds like they are working on. There is a article from Phone Arena talking about how Google Fi is potentially working on making it so that if you have a Google Fi number, you can still use Google Voice as a separate number, which would be fantastic.
It would definitely be helpful.
Yeah,
We
because
complained about that not too long ago.
and where Google Voice setup gives you a hang up is it asks you if you want a Google Voice number, you have to have a phone number that's being paid for by some service, so that people just can't make infinite amounts of numbers. Like you're at least they know that there's one being paid for, and it's one number per one Google Voice
I have a question.
number. Yeah.
What if you bought a burner phone with like whatever number and then set up your Google Voice, and then the burner phone you no longer used? Would you continue to have the Google Voice phone even after that number was no longer your number? Like if that phone, I don't know how those phones work. If it's like a prepaid number of minutes, do they still sell those?
Prepaid phones? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. It depend, like, so with the prepaid phones, it probably depends as to what service Google Fi or Google Voice accepts. So we can assume that if you got something from AT&T, Verizon,
given that
things
it
like
didn't
that.
even think about the fact that Google, maybe they thought about it or didn't think it was a big deal, the fact that Google Fi users can't. At any rate, it's,
Yeah, so what I was saying,
I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, is that you get the hang up when you're trying, it's one paid number per one Google Voice number, so that you don't just make infinite amounts. Makes sense that like that does. But because Google Fi uses Google Voice, for some reason they decided that that paid number doesn't count towards a Google Voice number. And it just baffled me logically. And so it sounds to me more that it is a issue when it comes to the software side, less of a logic issue. Like logically, it would make sense that if you're paying for a Google Fi number, that you should be still able to use Google Voice.
Right.
But if they're using the same system, they just have to figure out how to separate it properly. Some sort of back end software problem is most likely the reason why.
I'm glad they're working on it.
Yeah, it sounds like that's being worked on, and that will be great. Because that's pretty much the big downside for Google Fi.
What is the other Google related?
This one came out a few weeks ago. This is from Search Engine Journal about the Google Assistant only holds 9% of the virtual assistant market.
This is Google's trick.
Google Assistant just confirmed that as well.
Yes, it did.
And so the reason, after reading the article, that it sounds like is of the assistant market, you have to think of where assistants are on the market. They're not just in phones, they are in computers as well. And so first, let's break down what assistants there are, what the major ones at least.
Can we go from my memory first, since I can
Okay.
only name like 3?
Okay.
Alexa, Siri, Bixby. I'm out.
What about Google?
Well, Google.
Yeah.
Yeah, those 4.
So
I've got 4.
And then the 5th one being Cortana.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Microsoft.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so if you think about Microsoft's share in the physical device realm, recently, like they said that almost 80 or 90% of computers are back to like on Microsoft. Like 80 or 90% of Windows computers are on the Windows 10 train. And
Do you by chance know, is the 9% of devices that have an assistant, or is it like 9% of the requests made to an assistant?
This is the virtual assistant market. So this is the places where the virtual assistant
devices, more or less.
Yeah, essentially the number of devices that have a virtual assistant on. What is the percentage of those?
So who's the number one? Who has the most? Is it Microsoft with Cortana, the one that I did not come to mind? Because so it's even including like if you're not using it. Most everyone has Windows.
Yeah, just
so everyone pretty much has Cortana. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense that Google only has 9%. And when you think about it like that.
Yeah, so like most Windows computers are at Windows 10 at this point, except for corporations and things like that might not. But even then, Windows 7 is losing its service updates from Microsoft. So a lot of things, most Windows are moving to Windows 10 now, which means Cortana is built into Windows 10. So anytime you have a Windows 10 computer, you have Cortana installed on it. So that greatly inflates it. And same thing with Apple. Any Apple device, which they have their own phones and their own computer ecosystem, all have Siri on it. So the total market share for these assistants, you have the first place is currently Apple, because they have both phone market, which they hold like 30% market share, and the laptop market or computer market, which they also have about 30% market share.
It was going to be either Microsoft or Apple. Is Microsoft second then?
Microsoft is second, and that's so Apple's first at 35%. Microsoft is at 22% market share of the assistants, and that's without any phone market. And then you have Google Assistant and Amazon at 9% and 4% respectively. And that's because, well, they Google doesn't have it pre-installed on phones, outside of the Pixel phones, because Samsung and any other manufacturer that makes phones can put their own assistant in or choose not to have this Google Assistant installed. So it's not default just because you have an Android phone.
So what I was thinking, looking here at this, so it says 35% for Apple's Siri, 22% for Microsoft's Cortana, and then Google has 9%, Amazon's Alexa has 4%, and I was like, Bixby has so little. And then I did the math, and I was like, 30% left? That doesn't add up. And then it's globally. So I'm sure there are other assistants globally that must make up the rest of that 30%. But Bixby, they don't even give what the percent is, because... Interesting, though, how the breakdown is.
Yeah, it's... they are definitely... The virtual assistant wars are gonna come full steam here soon. And Microsoft is already bowing out. Like, it's not trying to make Cortana replace Siri or Google Assistant. It decided that it's going to back off Cortana to its Windows features, so that it's making it so that Cortana can easily help you around navigate Windows. It's almost like the new Clippy of Windows and Office. That's what it's trying Cortana to be.
I remember Clippy.
Yeah.
But I often changed it to like a dog or cat. There were a lot of choices. Anyways, go on.
But so that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to make it just help you get around Windows. If you want to talk to Windows and things like that, it's pretty simple. But
Wait, will they make a little animation creature like the? Do you remember all the animations that those little Clippy
I don't
dog?
think
And you
there's.
could click, and then you could tell it to animate it, and it had like a set of ones that it would go through.
I don't think they're gonna make an
Oh,
animation for it outside
I'm
of the little circle that
disappointed.
it has. If anything, they would make it Cortana from Halo, because that's where the Cortana name came from.
No thanks.
Halo's virtual little AI.
I haven't seen Cortana, but if it's not like a cute puppy or
No,
something,
it's
then
like
I don't.
a virtual person, little virtual person. But
There are
they're not
enough
doing that.
people. Yeah, we're
They're
good.
doing they just have like this
I
little
guess you
Halo.
trust a person more than a dog. Some people, I mean, subconsciously, if you're thinking about the psychology. But anyways, moving on.
Yeah, they just turned Cortana into this little Halo thing, and that's all
Yeah,
Cortana is.
that makes sense, and how easy to. It's yeah.
So, because that, so that's just interesting to know the market share, because you see Google Assistant and Alexa everywhere, but they actually have technically the smallest portion, even though they're much more visible.
Wait, Google Assistant, and what did you say?
Alexa.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say the smallest portion. Smaller when you compare them
To
relative
the big
to.
ones. I mean, there's lots of other
Siri-
assistants out there that are.
Siri, Cortana, that's the one. Yes, but it's also I'm not sure that the use would be reflective in the same.
That is the thing. The Siri and Google Assistant are probably the two that get the most use, and then Alexa would be probably third behind
we
that.
guess.
That's what I would assume. Because again,
I would guess that Apple does get the most because they, like you said,
Yeah.
they have computers and phones, and more phones than
and
Pixels
Siri
out there.
is a assistant that's actually used, that's built into phones, unlike Bixby, where it's built into phones but it's not used. Google Assistant, when it's installed, is used, and same thing with Siri.
Yep.
Is used. So they would definitely be the two that gets used the most. Amazon doesn't have a phone market. Its electronics market is very small. So that's why I would assume that it's third, because it is a very popular assistant, but it just doesn't have the physical device market to show off for it. But yeah, it would be interesting to see the actual usage of these guys. Another thing is this actually came to my feed because I was working on a computer that used Opera as a browser, and Opera is not a very popular browser, especially here out in the US. It's more popular more in the eastern area of the world, but the I had a person using Opera, and at some point my phone decided to tell me that Opera reportedly has multiple predatory loan apps in the Play Store, in the Google Play Store, with interest rates up to 876%. This is
What?
like, I didn't even realize that Opera was in the app game, let alone them having like more like, I just thought they were a browser. And it's not really that great of a browser either from what I've seen. But they also are in the app game, but you want to be careful with the
That's crazy.
kind of stuff. Taking a loan from an app anyways seems very sketch as it is.
It does, unfortunately, it does seem though that a lot of banking is moving mobile, and I don't know, I'm certainly no authority on this, but Chase is a big bank, but compared to some of these other banks like Wells Fargo, at least it seems that they're trying not to gouge customers. They're trying to make a relatively easy, accessible product for their online banking, and they do still have a lot of what do you call it, brick and mortar stores, and the people at the Chase locations I've been to have been helpful thus far.
Yeah, I think Chase, if we're talking about banks, Chase seems to have an advantage because, just my observation, they are not super greedy. It doesn't seem like they're, especially with the things that we've used them for. Um, they are mostly working on cutting costs, which is maybe not great for the market of the labor market, but very convenient for the customers. They're the ones that are pretty much going headfirst into digital kiosks, and which makes it so that they have a lot less frontline staff. They still have a few bank tellers and things like that at every location, but a lot of them, like a lot of locations, have a small staff, relatively small staff. Then some of them even work at multiple locations at a time.
Yeah, the specialists.
And they're not overworked though, because a lot of stuff is being taken off of their shoulders.
Automated.
Yeah.
I was gonna mention, if we're talking about automation that way and how Chase is trying to be more efficient, I guess would be the word. The Chase's You Invest app. I have not yet invested, so I can't speak firsthand, but I've read some articles about it, and it was recommended to me as a result of I've had 2 financial advisors in the past 5 years, and both of those in-person financial advisors have not been very helpful. Like, they get oh my gosh, several times over the percent that the You Invest app takes, and they've been probably less helpful. The You Invest, there are real people, but you put in like your risk tolerance and answer a few questions on a questionnaire. From what I've read, again, I haven't done this firsthand yet. I am planning to. But the reading up on the behind the scenes of it, it's basically just like they're trying to automate away, make efficient the system of having the ability to access. And they actually have 2, there's You Invest portfolios and You Invest trade. So my understanding is with the trade one, you have a little more ability to pick the specific ones that you are investing in. There are still limitations. I don't think that by everyone I mean every company, I don't think that you can select any company, but it is much wider. You have more specific control, and the cost is relatively low. I think it's like if you have a Chase account, I think it's like 100 trades or deposits or transactions per year for free, and then it's about $3 per trade or transaction after those first 100 per year, which compared to other sites that other similar automated investment things, it's a lower price, and you get the 100 free. I don't plan to go over 100 myself. I'm like, maybe I'll do it twice a month, probably more likely once a month. So we're looking at 12 to 24 transactions. I'm at a quarter of what you get for free. So I'm sure people who are more into banking and investing in things would have a lot more to say. They could give you a much better idea. But I do like the idea of technology being used to make things more efficient. I mean, efficiency is great. Why waste our time? Time is precious.
Yeah. Automation, the AI is that's probably the second best thing that AI is doing for the general consumer. There's a lot of back end things that the general consumer doesn't know the AI is doing. Right now, we know the general consumer understands the virtual assistant, right? And that is an AI system that is probably most forefront to consumers, and probably the one that they use most of. This second one, though, is automated trading and for your portfolios, and just making it in general easier to access the stock market, because it's a pretty high hurdle.
Right? And okay, so as a public service employee, I can't do 401ks. I have to do 403b or a 457 account. They're slightly different. We're not getting into that. But because of those restrictions, like there are certain financial advisors that I have to go through that can partner with the school that I work for. And it's been such a mess. And so like it's really a big deal to have those things actually be accessible. And then there's also been problems with, because of the percents being so high on those 403b accounts and stuff, it's a problem. Anyways.
So
Sorry.
so AI definitely making it easier for people to be able to access the portfolios. And there is, like she said, you invest for Chase. Your bank might have a similar thing, and if not, there is things like Acorn, which is another popular app.
I'm
that
interested
does,
in that one because that's the roundup one, right?
Yeah, that one is the one that rounds up like your spare change, and that you, when you buy something, it rounds it up to the next dollar or whatever you set it to.
And it's retirement specific, right?
It's essentially this investing thing. And yes, you can open a retirement account if you wanted to.
I thought the Acorns one had to be for a retirement account. Like I know that it rounds up and it goes for an investment account, but that one isn't retirement only?
It's not specific to retirement.
I didn't know that. I have to look into that one more because I am interested.
But that one, more. Yeah. And then there's also, oh man, there was another.
Robinhood?
No, there was SoFi. Oh. That was another one that is very similar to the You Invest. It's essentially a bank account that you can open up that you can do investments in. And the last one would be the Cash app from Square that does very similar. And they all have this kind of automated AI to help you with your investments, so that you can kind of do a set it and forget it kind of system. Or if you want to go in more detail, you can do a little bit of trading, and it would help you out with that. It's not for people that are super into investing. It's not like these AIs are going to help you get ahead of the curve or behind the curve. Like that's not what these AIs are for. But there are those kind of AIs as well that will be able to calculate fluctuations in the market so that people can move through the market a lot faster. But right now, these ones that we're talking about are general for the general consumer that doesn't even know stocks or trades and things like that. They have systems where you can help set up your account, set your risk tolerance, and then kind of leave it alone. And things like Acorn will help you remember to just reinvest or keep into, because if you are putting money into it as well as the market is too, you're just doubling your portfolio.
Well, and my whole, this is unrelated to tech. I think of it as long term. Like I'm not interested in the short trading. So this just like what was that nice phrase you used?
Set it and
forget it. Yeah. And I also think I want to do the Chase You Invest and the Acorns. I want to do both of them. That way also I'm diversifying a little bit. That way I'm not putting all into
your
one.
Acorns in one basket.
Yeah, all my acorns in one basket. And the Acorns one, I do like that roundup thing too. And plus, since now I'm tracking all of my purchases again, so I can keep track of them in an app, that's nice because it rounds everything up. And so it's super easy to remember and just track.
Yeah. The
efficiency, I love it.
There are pros and cons to each one of them. So the Acorns is designed a lot more for smaller scale investments. As you increase to a larger scale, from what I understand, the price point ends up not gouging you, but it ends up being a higher percentage, or like more money than other areas that like the You Invest, where it's designed for a higher or a larger portfolio.
I think You Invest has a minimum initial investment of like $2,500.
Yeah, so like so they do the same thing but at different levels of income,
more or less.
So there's definitely something that you'd want to look into, but they do make it a lot easier to get into, and that is something that AI is really good, has done really good for the consumers.
Did you have more on this topic?
No,
I have a separate topic I want to switch to for a second while I'm thinking of it. It was related to Sheets. The voice typing in Sheets. How devastating that you cannot use voice typing in Google Sheets right now for whatever reason.
You tried today again too?
No, I didn't today, but this week I tried. Did they just update it?
Well,
anyways, okay, you try it.
It's only down for 24 hours.
Well, no, because I tried it 2 days in a row this week. I was trying to type my notes and, well, say my notes. Anyways, at any rate, so I was very disappointed that it seems Google did some kind of update to their Sheets app. I'm assuming it's an update. I should, yes, be clear. But I can't right now. Usually you can go through, I think it's the Tools app at the top and then down to voice typing, and then you can just speak and it transfers from dictation from your speech into text. But this week, it is in Docs now. It was in Docs because I was writing up a report and it used. Oh, when I was having a problem earlier this week with it. So this might already be resolved. Also related to Google Sheets, another problem that I have had for a really long time, and I know this is silly that I only just asked Victor within the past week, and he solved it in a matter of about 5 minutes. It was actually probably more like 1 minute, but I guess we're being gentle on me. That I went, for years I've been frustrated that in Google Sheets, when I'm typing my notes, because I use this for my daily notes, for every student that I see, I have to write a daily note. I have to write about what we did and why we did it and how the student did and how they're progressing on their goals. And okay, so Victor says the voice typing is still not in Sheets, but you're okay? We're good.
Yeah.
So the problem I was running into is, especially without having the voice typing, I have to type everything manually, which is fine. But I have this problem where oftentimes I will jot a few things down, and then if I forget to either tab or enter or click into the next box, after 30 seconds or a minute, it would just delete my entire note, including even if like I've typed up a whole paragraph in my form, and then like I click away to make sure it saves it, and then I click back, double click back in the box and type more, but I forget to switch boxes, it just would delete the whole thing, which was hugely problematic for me. But then Victor, how did we fix this again?
I mean, you tell me.
Double clicked on all you had to do was like double click on the button tools. It was it, or was it insert? It was the insert button at the top of your Google Sheets. If you double click it, it doesn't look like it does anything. But I have not had this problem. Like, hopefully it doesn't come back. But I haven't had this problem where it's deleting what's in my active text box when the cursor decides to fade away after a minute.
If you don't understand or the way word processors and Sheets and things like that, there's generally two formats of typing when it comes to these processors, these data processors. There's either the type and it pushes everything forward. So this is the default usually when you're typing, especially if you're phone and then on your phone and you go back and you want to add something to whatever you're typing, you type like, let's say you forgot to put an and in middle of your sentence somewhere. You just go to that place, you type and it pushes everything forward so that you're not erasing. Then there's the other version of where you go to type and then everything in front of you deletes as you're typing.
It deletes the next word that would have otherwise been after.
So there's those two different forms of typing can be toggled by hitting insert. Now it seems like there's also, and then you could set it as like a default by double tapping. It seems like there seems to be, I don't know, some sort of bug or something like that with when you have that setting set, that if idle it'll just delete everything, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
I can't tell you how many times I've had to rewrite entire paragraphs, or like after the fact, like a day later, had to try to remember everything from the day before because I stupidly clicked in a box. And it's like,
so yeah, if you're having that trouble with Google Sheets, try double tapping insert and seeing if then you have that problem still of it deleting even if you're just idle in a cell.
in all fairness, it's better than handwritten notes.
So that will be it for this week of Tech Talks. Hopefully we didn't talk your ear off too much. And it was a bit of a longer one, didn't we?
I don't know.
45 minutes. It wasn't our longest. I think the Joker review one was our longest at like an hour or something.
Sorry. I think I talked for 45 minutes straight in that one.
But it was, yeah, we're getting it. It's good when you do decide to pitch in, though.
I don't know.
Most of the time, it's just me talking for 30 minutes, and then you're like, uh-huh.
But then sometimes I have too much to say, and I interrupt, and I go on tangents, and I say things that are irrelevant. So there's a balance to be found.
There's a balance. As we continue,
hopefully we'll
have a balance.
Get better. Be gentle with your criticisms. We like constructive feedback.
Thank you, everyone. We will see you next week.
Yes.
As long as I don't destroy this edit of this. So, have a great one, guys.
Take care.